Hey, love Dr. Nikki from Oranum.com here. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to my series of videos on palmistry. This is my first one in a series of 4 videos, and today we're going to look at the first thing I look at when I'm doing a palm reading, which is the shapes of the hands and the fingers. We're going to start by looking at the square hand, and a square hand is exactly that. It's kind of square in shape. The palm and the fingers kind of make squares. The fingers are approximately the same length as the palm, and they're kind of thick and well formed. Talks about a person who's down to earth and practical. Then we have the oblong hand. Now, the oblong hand is exactly that. It's more elongated. The palm tends to be more oval in shape. And this indicates a person whose imaginative approach to life allows them to see things very differently. Then we have the conical hand, also known as the round hand. And the conic hand is graceful, curved in appearance, and the palm is more oblong than square. The fingers are long and rounded at the tips. This kind of person, the person with this hand, prefers to view the world as beautiful and perfect. Sometimes can be a dreamer. Then we have the elementary hand. It's kind of square in shape and the fingers are a little stubby. And normally on the elementary hand, there'll be very few lines on the palm. And this indicates usually a person who doesn't have a lot of activities, but the few that they engage in, they do very, very well. Then we have the psychic hand. Now, the psychic hand is exactly what people look for when they're going for a reading. A lot of times they look for this right here, the long fingers. That usually does indicate someone who does have an ability or a natural gift. And it also is someone who tends to think the best of others and has to look closer to see the true nature of things. Then we have the philosophical hand, which is square in shape and has obvious joints and long fingers. You can see the little joints there. This tends to be a person who is analytical and they always look to see exactly what is there. The next hand we look at is the mixed hand. It basically just is kind of a hodgepodge. Might be short fingers on a oval shaped palm, something that just doesn't fit in the regular descriptions. And this usually indicates a person who possesses a strong ability to move from one activity to another with ease. And then the final hand shape we're going to look at today is the practical hand shape. And the practical hand shape is a palm with longish, well-shaped fingers. And as the name implies, practicality is second nature to this kind of person. Now, next we're going to move right into fingers. And the first thing we're going to look at is what they call the fingers in palmistry. They are named after the planets. We start with Jupiter, then Saturn, Apollo for the ring finger, and Mercury for the pinky. Now, the finger shapes I have behind me, and I think you can see them, oops, backwards, pretty well. We start out with the pointer finger, and that's kind of a square-tipped finger. You can see it here with a square tip. And then we're looking at the next finger, which is the ring finger, has the round or conic shape to it. And this is kind of how that looks. Now, a square tip, of course, again, goes back to a practical person who appreciates a solid routine and the stable day-to-day existence. And a person with a round fingertip is someone who's practical and a little bit idealistic and kind of easygoing and quick thinking. Then we have the spatulate tip. It's kind of hard to see, but it kind of flares out at the sides. And that's called so because it does flare. And practicality and inventiveness are hallmarks with this person. And then finally, we have the pointed tip, which in my chart behind me is the little finger. And here's a kind of a close-up. And a pointed tip is the extreme of iconic, and that talks about someone who is highly impressionable and intuitive. And then you have the mixed fingertip, which is basically you have gnarly knuckles and the nails might be long and the fingertip might be broad. And that usually indicates someone who's very versatile and able to go with the flow. Now, the last thing we look at when we're looking at the hand shape is, of course, the length of the phalanges. Now, the phalanges are the lengths of the individual knuckles on your hand. And the first ones, or the tip of the phalanges, speak to the person's spirituality and intuition. The middle phalange speaks to the intellect and cognitive thinking. And then the last is how the individual relates to the material world. Well, that's my video on palm shape or hand shapes and fingers. And I hope you'll turn in next week when we really get into the meat of the palm reading. We'll look at the lines on the palm. Have a great day and hope to see you at oranum.com.